when I was in audio engineering school, there was a part where I was doing this after school project, and I was like being shadowed by one of the facilitators, and they sent me off for lunch, and I think he joked, and I won a bowl of red M&Ms.
Yes.
Because of the famous like writer type situation. And we laughed at that, or maybe it was Skittles, one of the two. Anyways, and when I went to get lunch, I got a bag and separated out all the colors and gave him a bowl of just what he'd asked for. And he's like, "Fuck, dude, you are gonna go far in this industry. Like, holy shit!" That was a joke, and you did it, and that really shows a lot. That's really cool.
So Monday, I'm going to be playing host to an actor. This studio here and this microphone will be in use by a professional actor.
Nice.
Who's I'm just doing a favor for a friend, and they're recording a bit of a voiceover about fisting, I think.
Hello.
And any questions?
No, that sounds fantastic. I'm.
So I met a chap last year at my stand-up course, who is a wonderful, lovely human being, who I love how like small the world is and connections and stuff. I met him, and he was called Mark, and I then at some point saw his surname, and I was like, Mark Locke, I know that name. No, it wouldn't. I mean, he's from the Midlands. He couldn't be the same. I don't. You know what? I'll ask him. And it turned out he was the same Mark Locke who used to make music videos for the band Misty's Big Adventure, of whom I was a fan, and with whom, at least for some of them, I was friendly.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. That like I'd never met him. And
that's
then
cool.
You know, like 20 years later,
wow.
We were on a stand-up course together, and we've become friends. And I've been an extra in one of his films, and he's now coming over to use the studio to record, because he's got a documentary about. No, it's not fisting; it's fingering.
Okay,
it's a documentary about fingering.
A little less extreme, but
yeah,
we'll still allow it.
Still, it's still insertion of not necessarily the whole thing, but the digits. So
still a pleasant time.
Still a
for all
fun
involved.
old time. So I will be literally herding cats to make sure that they don't enter the studio, because there is now a point of egress and ingress for the cats. So they will have to be locked away elsewhere. So yeah, that is Monday, and then after that, I will hopefully be hot-footing it over to Moseley to go and do the make-em-ups.
That's cool.
For a couple of hours.
That's cool. And speaking of Mondays, you've been doing your jam banding.
Yeah, so I've got a choice to make. So I've been to one jam band thing, which was really nice, and it was just very pleasant, and it was cool to sort of. It was very welcoming and very sort of easy.
Awesome. How many people?
I don't know, like 25.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Everybody playing?
I think I was three keyboard. I think I was keyboard number 3.
I like that term, 3 keyboard.
So I was 3 keyboard.
I had 3 keyboard.
Yeah, there were lots of guitars.
Yeah. Everybody plays
only
guitar.
one drummer. Plenty of singers, a ukulelist, and a sort of conductor, band leader.
Cool. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and so he was in charge, and it was kind of nice to. It's hard to describe how it felt. It was kind of just fun and easy.
Awesome.
And I was getting into not trying too hard, which was really nice. So the first song we did was Never Can Tell, I think is the name of the C'est la vie, say the old folks, goes to show you never can tell, sort of I'm blanking on the guy's name. So the Johnny B. Good, Little Richard, I think it's Little Richard. It was a teenage wedding and the old folks wished them well, better known as the song that Uma Thurman and Your Man danced to in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Which on the piano is a lovely sort of thumper, because you can really just go for the ding, 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 it's there's only like 3 chords,
Nice.
and it's in C, so it's like couldn't be
easy.
easier. Ding, 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 and that's great.
I get to play the white keys.
Yeah. So it's all like all the white keys.
That's the one thing I know about piano.
Yeah. And you can do a bit of glissando, if you want to get fancy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really fun. And just easy, and you're just bashing basically.
Yeah.
And we then did. I think we finished with an Adele song, "Rolling in the Deep," which they'd already done before, and so I was just getting acquainted. And then in the middle, we did "If It Makes You Happy" by Sheryl Crow.
Oh, I like that song.
This was
Sorry, makes you happy. I love that song.
Can't be that bad. Yeah. Which is in G because it's a country song. They're usually in G or A. And that was nice because it was an exercise in how can I be heard. And like I want the band leader to hear me, but I'm not trying. Like I want to play subtly, and I want to accompany like properly. Yeah. So I'm just doing nice little riffs, little licks, little country style piano twiddles. That I taught myself sort of how to do them years ago, and I was like, there's listening to like Nora Jones and stuff, and there's these little sort of kind of lifts that you can do.
Oh, that's cool.
And just doing a few of those to pepper in, when nothing else is, not much else is happening. It's the break in between a phrase,
sure.
And
I mean, that adds texture to the song. That's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not competing, and it's not sort of trying to just add, but or add at 100%. It's just like when it works, let's just pop a little bit in here, and you can sit back. It's okay. Yeah. That phrase has been on my mind. Like more and more people just like we need to be saying to people like maybe sit this one out. Like when someone's got a take on something, when someone's got their reckon on something, it's just like. It's okay. You can sit this one out if you want. Like you don't have to have an opinion. You can, it's all right.
Yeah.
So that was nice, and it was just easy. So I've got a choice. Like if the improv thing goes really well, and I want to do that, then it's twice the price of the music thing. But I do love my improv.
Yeah.
And I'm tempted to ask whether they would be interested in me doing musical accompaniment for the improv.
Ooh.
Depends what it's going to be. But that's something fun. I've been interested in doing for a while, just like playing, just accompanying the improv and playing little, little bits or trying to turn things, just underscore a scene kind of thing. I think that'd be quite fun.
Oh, that would be super fun. Have you ever tried doing that to like a video of actors or whatever? Just like you're watching, so like you put on an improv from YouTube or whatever, and then try to accompany that just for practice.
I once did it with a soap. I once did it with an episode of EastEnders just for the fuck of it. But I've not done it for actual sort of live comedy. But I have been in a house party where we sort of improvised our own musical.
That's fun.
And I say we.
How'd that turn out?
Me. It was lots of fun. I mean, it's just sort of noodling around and coming up with silly song ideas and stuff. And it was fun.
That's cool.
Fun to be had.
So it sounds like there's so much joy around.
There is so much joy. And I have the number 3 podcast in the US.
Hell yeah, bro.
In the new and noteworthy category, but it still counts.
That still counts. That's incredible.
I'm number 9 in self-improvement, which is a more long-lasting list. So I'm in the top 10.
That's wow. Like, I'm actually kind of curious who you said number 9?
Yes.
I'm curious who 10 and 11 are, because like who did you bump out?
yeah, indeed. Well, in new and noteworthy, I am ahead of Criminal.
Wow.
Yeah.
How is Criminal in new and noteworthy? I mean, I guess noteworthy.
New season, probably.
New season,
new story. So it's and that's what's cool. It's editorial. It's not algorithmic. And I moved up. Like I was in 6. 6th, and then I got bumped up, which was quite amazing.
Wow.
So yeah, it's quite the thing. And my dude, my downloads, oh my god, they're getting rinsed, mate. They are getting rinsed.
I'm assuming that's good.
Yes, 10,000 so far in the last 6 weeks. Over the
Wow.
We are now we've reached 10,000 downloads.
Wow, almost approaching Convergence levels. That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
No, seriously, dude, that's incredible. I love that for you. That's amazing.
I love that for you.
I love that for you.
Bless your heart. Yeah, Apple is currently 59.12%, 59.12% of my listening audience, having far outstripped Australia now, who were my big, like back a week ago I was like, wow, this is amazing, I'm big in Australia, and it's like, okay, let's throw down some numbers.
That's amazing.
So I have one other piece of news, and then Debbie Downer. But the other piece of news, which is related to the Debbie Downer, is, I shouldn't say Debbie Downer. That feels probably anyway.
Yeah, poor Debbie. Yeah,
it's not her fault. Is that I described in a previous episode about my previous therapist, and I loved his little face, and I was looking forward to hopefully being able to see his little face again.
Yeah.
He will have a free spot in June onwards.
Hey. Oh wow. Hey, there you go.
So I will be back to seeing his little face.
That's wonderful.
In person. So I am very pleased about that.
Yeah.
I think that'll be good because Debbie Downer still can't get happy.
Yeah.
It's been a challenging, not a challenging week, but it's been a week where I've been sort of just needing Mm-hmm. But it is interesting. Like it feels more chemical, if you like, than emotional,
psychological.
Yeah. Because depression doesn't need a reason. It doesn't work like that. Much like anxiety, it doesn't have to have a reason. But I have no reasons to be lacking cheer. So it's not really about that.
When you say reason, I assume you mean like a logical headspace, like an argument that you can make for or against. It doesn't need a reason. But
what I mean by depression doesn't need a reason. It doesn't need to be answered by what are you depressed about.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like that. It's same with anxiety. It's like, what are you anxious about? What you got? Like it doesn't have to. Being sad,
right. Yeah,
is not the same as So, and so I'm going to be not for this reason, but for the reasons that I just think it's a good idea. I'm going to go back to 2 meals.
Cool.
Or I'm going to go to 2 meals. I haven't really gone back to it, but I'm going to try cutting out breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And go for lunch and dinner. I think that will help on a few fronts anyway, health-wise. And just keep doing the things, keep going out, seeing the people, doing the stuff.
Yeah, super important.
And then, talking to someone whose job it is every week to go, "Aw." Because that's what we need sometimes.
It is what we need.
And, being called on one's bullshit when one is being...
Do they do that?
Yeah, he does. He's he has been good at the past, in the past of me saying like, I think I'm this, and he's like, I don't think you are. Or you're using that as a get out clause because you're uncomfortable to do the hard thing. And so he, like I think I've described before, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was in one of his sessions. I've never felt so wrung out as a human being, so emotionally depleted as when I had to express my feelings to imagining that person was in the room, like woof. Very so, like, it's not as much as I joke about it being just sitting in a room and a guy goes, "Ma," it's there is work, there is stuff being dug up.
Of course.
I like being excavated.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoy that.
We find ourselves fascinating. We are fascinating beings.
Oh man, I wish I found myself more fascinating most of the time. Actually, um, yeah, I gotta really dig deep sometimes. I'm curious if you have given any thought um, to finding an EMDR therapist, if that has
Um,
crossed your mind or been interesting
no,
for
it
you at all.
hasn't. It hasn't. Not through any. It just hasn't crossed my mind.
Hmm.
Yeah, so the guy that I see is a Gestalt psychologist, and so that's all. My understanding is it's sort of dealing with the whole person and the whole situation. He's also he introduced me to the paradoxical theory of change, which is kind of a neat thing. And yeah, but there's no other particular modality.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I found that I've told you about this before, but I found that the process of doing either eye movements or another sort of uh, actionable therapy, that like some deeper things can come out. And the reason why I'm asking now is that like you've got some time before you start with your regular, and if you wanted to, you could um, go in for a few weeks. If you found an EMDR therapist, you could go in for a month or two or whatever, unlock some things, and then go to your regular and hammer those things out a bit more. But it some of those things are unlikely to get exposed during regular therapy. Like I went to regular therapy for a long time, and
not in my experience.
okay,
But yeah, please, yeah, go for it. But yeah, yeah.
sure. But yeah, like there was just some what turned out to be really core memories, really effective to me, that I hadn't really thought about as anything but a memory. And then through the process of EMDR, it turned out to be like, oh, this actually really affected my psyche. This changed me, and it isn't just something that happened, but it's like something I need to process.
Yeah.
So your experience is different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in my experience, like talk therapy has, because sometimes it can just be a fairly innocuous question,
Mm-hmm.
and you get into talking about you get telling a story, and then you're like, oh, I guess I hadn't really connected that with that thing, and then suddenly you're crying,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just I looked up the British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy, and they
Mm-hmm.
have. Oh no, it's not that one. Sorry. I looked at the EMDR UK Association, and their website seems nice. And then you go to find a therapist, and it goes, "This website does not work. You can't find a secure connection." So
Oh wow.
they're losing a fuck ton of business right now because
Whoops.
their therapist finder does not work.
It broken.
Whoops.
Yeah.
So the entire kind of purpose of the website. Anyway, so I will look for other means. And have a
It's just an idea.
snoodle around. What is new in your world?
I got a couple things. I don't really know where to start. I've been feeling kind of heavy this week, a bit down. I've gone through and am going to go through a bunch of life changes. In the very recent past and for the foreseeable future.
Is this related to child having?
No,
or is this other stuff?
So I mean, there's part of it is like I'm preparing my body to contribute my portion of the conception, and so I'm not doing some things that I do like saunas and hot baths, or having peanut oil, or for some other things. I am doing things that I'm not particularly fond of, like fish and shellfish and organ meats and stuff. That's all fine. Like I can sit in the discomfort of that. I can appreciate for what it is. I know it's kind of temporary. I get to go, as soon as the baby's conceived, I get to go back to doing what I want to do. Lucky me. But there's still a a very slight, what's the privileged grieving period of this. Like, yeah, I have it good. Bore me, like, so yeah, there's a little conflict of feelings in that. But also I shared some stuff in a week ago's men's group, and that made me also then share some stuff with Margaret, and it caused a big life change. And so
Shit.
yeah. So
Okay.
this considering our considering how this podcast has been used in a legal setting before, this might not make it to tape in full, but
Yes.
I'm really happy to share, and we'll see how the edit comes out.
Yes. Listener, you already know.
And I think there's this there's a statute of limitations.
And as always, correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh my god. Go Hawks. Okay, I've told you I've told you a few months ago about my history with what I'm going to refer to as apple picking.
Okay.
An activity where, yeah, I procured items and
apples from people's gardens. Yes.
Yeah, so I've been apple picking since I was a kid, and on and off at different times. In my previous marriage, it was condoned and encouraged, and
that's unusual.
Yeah, well, we were going through a very difficult financial time, and I think I just suggested, like, well, I could just do some apple picking.
I could take these apples. Yeah.
And after like a brief moment of surprise, there was like encouragement. It was like, yeah, let's do it. And then that just continued, and it was kind of the way that we could survive off of these apples. And then it kind of faded away. Like, we started doing better financially, and it kind of faded in its necessity. And my ex-wife became a little bit more cautious and was like, all right, let's just, there wasn't, I don't remember there being like a conversation about it, but it was just like,
maybe we have enough apples.
Yeah, we're good on apples. And so the apple picking became my secret hobby, and it was something I hid, not necessarily, but like there was just tons of things I hid in that relationship because I would get in trouble for anything. So I didn't share anything.
And I want to put a pin in that, not put a pin in it, but I want to like shine a light on that phrase. No one should have to be in a relationship. Well, maybe this is my naivety talking, and you can say otherwise. But like, I feel like no one should be in a relationship where they feel like they're going to get in trouble. Like that, those words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that specific choice of words that, like, I think you just sort of, was subconsciously just there or unconsciously there. So like, get in trouble. Like, yeah, that's how it feels.
Completely.
No one should have to feel that way. Growing a relationship.
I appreciate that, and I agree. And it was that way, though.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, it's what it was. In addition to hiding a bunch of things in my life, apple picking was one of them. Became one of them. And so, since I was just picking apples for myself, I picked my favorite flavors from my favorite places, and I got the really sugary, sweet kinds, and I got whatever I wanted, and that led to gaining weight and other things. And so after my marriage, I kind of stopped for a while. Like, I didn't really need to hide anything. I was actually making pretty good money, and I just was like trying to become a regular person again after all the trauma I had been through. And then I met Margaret, and we were having a good time. And then the 2020 race issue came up. The Black Lives Matter movement came up, and I wanted to help, but I was unemployed because of the pandemic. I was deep in my fibromyalgia. I was unable to march with people and like go for that long of a distance to be a person chanting with a sign. So I wanted to contribute in a different way. So I wanted to support the people that were there. And one of the things that I like to do is provide food and provide sustenance, water, everything like that. So I get my pickup, I put a bunch of power bars, granola bars, bottles of water, and other things like that. I put my tailgate down, and like people could just come and take whatever they want. There was a little tip jar, but like that wasn't the point. That was just free stuff. Keep marching. Yeah, so I didn't have any money, so I did apple picking to give away apples, and then I just kind of got back. I fell back in the habit again after the marches were finished. I'm like, well, this is still really effective. This is a skill that I have honed over the course of my life. And so I just kept doing it. And eventually it became my entire, like I, it was the only way that I procured groceries and some other things. It was just apples. So that's kind of the history of it, of the actual picking. Another interesting factor to me is my family history with it. And I called my mom recently and talked to her about this after yeah, and got some history about my dad. And he had his own apple picking history of various sorts. I had known about this a little bit after his passing, but after this phone call the other day, I got some more details about it and how he would, he did apple picking when he was younger. When he was in school, he would actually break into his school's like science lab and grab different chemicals to make explosives and like fireworks and stuff. And then when he was older, he would swap price tags and buy them at a lower rate and return them at a higher rate and pocket the difference. And then my mom was on the phone call was even like, yeah, and I admit, like I'm a person who wants to get a deal. I want to get one over on somebody. I want to be the person that comes out on top. I want to find a way to get something for nothing or get something for super cheap or whatever. And between the two of them, like I learned a lot of that mindset was just always around. And that, so that was normal to me. Also, another thing that was normal was not talking about it, was not opening up and exposing what we're doing, what we're thinking, how we're feeling. I asked my mom when she knew that she wanted to get divorced from my dad because it happened when I was third year in high school, but I knew that it was I knew that she wanted to do it prior to that. But I never heard when. And she told me that it was when we had our house fire when I was like 8 years old, or maybe younger. No, I guess 6 years old. And because she thought that he had caused the fire on purpose, that it wasn't an accident. So what happened with the story that I've been told my entire life, because my sister and I were young and we went up to my grandma's while my dad was painting the entire interior of the house. And he was using an oil-based paint. And when one day at lunch, he went to the sink, washed his hands in hot water. It turned on the gas water heater, which caused the igniter to spark to heat up the boiler, and that lit the fumes from the oil-based paint and caused the house to burn down. And she proposed the theory that that was like insurance fraud, that he purposefully burned down the house so that we could rebuild it and that he'd get a bunch of money from it. That had never crossed my mind until she said that on the phone call, which is fascinating and also like completely believable to me. I would have no idea how conscious or subconscious that is for him, but I can completely see that happening. So that's a bit of a mind fuck of a story that I've heard and told myself for years and years being kind of turned on its head. Yeah, so that's kind of like the family history with it. And so I've had this habit of apple picking for years and years, and I keep it quiet. And part of it, like, there's a little bit of there's a tiny bit of shame in there because it's counterculture. It's not what is recommended to do. It can get you in trouble if you do it wrong. But like there was also a lot of pride in it. Like I was really successful at apple picking. I picked some really big apples sometimes, and I could never tell anybody. I could never share this part of my life with anybody, and that really sucked. So one of the reasons why I really wanted to join this men's group was to actually talk to people about that. So I went to therapy year man year and a half ago. I don't know, maybe longer. And I told that therapist, hey, oh yeah, we talked about this on that previous episode. I used to shoplift. And they were like, oh, I didn't expect that of you. And getting that reaction, especially from a person who's supposed to be deadpan, was like feeling that judgment, like shut me up again, like hardcore. I couldn't, and because I'm definitely not going to tell you that I still do it. Fuck. So part of me was like, okay, I want to get a new therapist, and I want to just say it right away before they form an opinion about me. I still apple pick. It's not a big deal, but just need to get that out of the way because this is the thing that I feel like turns people's opinions of me, and I want it to just be known and not. I want your opinion to be formed and either be turned up or turned down. That's fine, but not shift on this.
What that says to me is that former therapist betrayed your trust, and that's the key here. Is that you trusted that your therapist would listen without judgment. This one betrayed your trust, and so what you're doing is the classic thing of like, I want to go in and hurt myself before they get a chance to hurt me.
Oh, interesting. I don't see it that way. That's interesting. But yeah, because I don't feel like it's hurting myself. By that kind of just saying it at first.
No, but
I see what you mean.
Not giving them the opportunity to betray your trust because you're going in straight away with like, here's this thing, and hopefully, they will earn that trust knowing what they know about apples.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this men's group, I was like, I want to tell these guys, like they're an isolated group of people from my everyday life, and we've all become really good friends. And it's a way to communicate about this without it coming back to my core people. Because I had thought about talking to apple picking with Carl and Cameron, but I knew that was going to be, a bit close to home. And it's like, why would I tell them if I'm not telling Margaret? I'm like, why am I not telling Margaret? All these things come up. I was like, I'm just going to tell somebody else. And so I opened up, and I told the guys like, hey, I have this thing. I'm not ready to tell it yet. And then a week ago, I said that again, and one of the guys pushed me. And he's like, dude, just say it. Like, we're all here for you. We've all shared deep stuff. Like, go ahead, just say it. And I don't know. He actually said it in a really compelling way, and I was like, "Fuck, no, I have to." And so I did, and universally, all eight of them were really supportive, and like, a lot of them were like, "That's it." Well, I thought maybe you'd killed a guy.
I thought that might be the case.
Yeah, and they were like, they all described their own apple picking adventures, and yeah, it was universally just like almost dismissed, like. But at the same time, it was like, thank you for finally telling us. Thank you for opening that veil, and like I understand you a lot better now, and stuff. And so that was all a lot for me. And then I came home and I often decompress with Margaret about like what we kind of talked about and what I'd shared, whether the people shared lessons learned. And I talked about it was just the apple picking, not necessarily that was still happening. With the guys, I shared that it was still happening and that I didn't want to stop. With Margaret, I had just said, yeah, we talked about apple picking. And then she had talked about she brought, I was like, the topic moved on, and she was talking about her parents' budget, that Margaret helped them get onto You Need a Budget, and they were finding out like, oh, we spend $1,000 a week on groceries, and Margaret was like, oh, well, our grocery budget's way lower. And there was a little bit of like, well, if my mom asks you how to like maybe get the grocery budget down, maybe you can think of some tips. And I'm like, realizing a few things are swirling around in my mind right now. Like for one, I'm like, I don't think your mom wants to slide the apple down into the grocery tote while she's walking around the grocery store. Like I don't think that that's what she wants to do to get a grocery bill down. And this is also telling me something else. I didn't consciously realize that I had thought that Margaret and I had a don't ask, don't tell kind of thing about the apple picking, because I had told her that in my past I had done apple picking, and I never told her that I had stopped. And in my family, where I'd come from, that kind of thing means I might still be doing it. In her family, they would just say, I'm still doing it, or I'm not doing it anymore. And there was no assumptions needed, no assumptions made. And so it clicked for me at that moment. Like, she doesn't subconsciously know that I'm doing this, or have any hint at all. So now I really feel compelled to open up to her about this. Like, before it was like, yeah, it was just like, this didn't really need to be said. And now I feel like, oh, no, actually, this does need to be said. So this has never happened to me before. This moment of, oh, I need to say this thing. I need to open up about this to my significant other and risk whatever comes. Through my childhood, through my relationships, it was always, I'm going to defend my hidden position until I die. Like, until I absolutely have to come to terms with that I did something, like I got arrested, or my in-laws found remnants of apple cores in their garage and talked to my ex-wife about it, and then they all came to me and they're like, hey, what's up with these apples, bro? And all the these exterior factors that made me have to admit that I had done something. Then I would finally admit it, and I would maybe try to work on change for whatever. But this is the first time that I've ever been like, oh no, I could still keep getting away with this, but I realize that no, to my ethics, to my moral code, I have to expose this. And so I told her, and she was shocked. And we were just talking about this part last night. Like, it was kind of funny because her reaction at one point was a little bit like, well, what else are you hiding? I can't trust you as much anymore. I didn't even know you were keeping a secret from me. And I'm over here like, my chest is fully open. You can now see this was the last thing. I have never been so clean. I have never been so exposed. I feel great. Not great, but like I feel
unburdened. Yeah.
Unburdened. Yes. Yeah. And I'm unhappy to have now burdened her, but I no longer have anything to hide.
Yeah.
But that makes me untrustworthy because then I expose that I was untrustworthy. So that was all really complicated, but we've things have actually improved in a couple cool ways since then over the past week. And it was only like 2 days of kind of shock, but now it's been a lot of support, and so that's been incredible. With her initial shock, she didn't want to be extra burdened on that alone, and asked me to call my mom and talk to her parents as well. And so I called my mom right away. My mom, she's known about this through many for many reasons, and we had a great conversation. Talked about my dad and our history a lot, and yeah, it was a really good conversation. And then I went and talked to her parents about it, which was really interesting. when I
Yeah.
yeah, telling your in-laws that you have been hiding something from their daughter for 5 years.
What, from Margaret's point of view?
Yeah, I have a good explanation for this.
Okay. Okay.
They have a very open relationship. They don't hide anything from each other. And
So by her not telling her parents, she would be hiding this from them.
she would feel so weighted down. She would feel like, I'm keeping the secret from my parents.
Okay.
I don't keep secrets from my parents.
Yes. Okay.
And it wasn't her secret to tell. So she asked me to do it. And I've been like this with other things. Once I tell one person about it, once it's kind of out in the open, it's a lot easier to to tell more people about it. Even if I've had bad reactions to it, it's like, well, the news is already out there. And so they were the last in a train. You know, I told the men's group, I told Margaret, I told my mom, and then I told them, and then later I told Carl and Cameron, and it went really well. And I kind of give them a similar, more truncated framing about my family history, and we had talked about the apple picking indirectly before, and so it was an unfamiliar topic, and they were both just really supportive. My mother-in-law was like, "Oh, I'm just worried about your safety. I don't want you to get in trouble," and so there was some relation there, and there was some like they hugged me and were thankful that I opened up with them, and yeah, they're you met them, they're great. Like, so yeah, it all went really well, and possibly now they're away stewing in anger about me, but I really doubt it. So Margaret doesn't want me to do it anymore, and that was one of the big reasons why I didn't want to tell her, is because I knew that she wouldn't want me to do it anymore. And we had kind of gotten used to a certain type of lifestyle of always having really nice apples around, and now we're going to change our life because we can't afford the thing. When you're just taking whatever apples you want, you can pick all the nice apples, and now we're going to need to pick some of the lesser apples. It's not that I'm going to miss the process. Like, it's just kind of fun. I don't get a big thrill. It's not a high. It's not an addiction. I believe I can stop anytime. But it's more of like a method. It's just a thing that I've done for so long that I'm no longer going to be doing. There's the thing that comes from it that I'm no longer going to get, because we're going to completely shift the way that we get groceries and other things. And there's the factor of it being exposed, that all these three things are big life changes for me, and it's been a grieving week. It's all felt very heavy and not sorrowful, but there's something weighty about it. There's something.
Yes, it's been a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
That you now need to, or feel you need to, give up, or put aside. It'd be like asking me not to code because it does some. It's just like, it's not all about necessity. Like, I do it because, like, I was doing it a bunch this week because it's how the brain dolphins get dancing.
Mm-hmm. And they're like I don't think that this is going to happen, but I could see a future where coding is outlawed, like individual coding, like you have to work for a company or something, or have to be regulated. And like, what if, coding for your own fun became outlawed? Like, then either you would want to follow the law, which, like, fuck laws, or, I mean, because women weren't allowed to vote. It was the law women couldn't vote. It was the law that black people were 2/3 of a human, or whatever the fraction was. Like there's so many bad laws. Anyways, that's beside the point. But like that's kind of how I feel about it, and so you mentioning that is like it resonates for me as a analogy.
What are your thoughts about? So you mentioned a shift in like how you're going to get groceries and that kind of stuff. Have you put any thought into your, for want of a better phrase, sort of standard of living in the wake of this new expense that is now a part of your life?
Yeah, no, I mean mostly it's like I'm using these last things that I've had from previous apple pickings that I'm like, well, this is too expensive to buy. Like I get this because I can get it for free. So got to savor this one. And or now I'm gonna, like I have this high quality version of this thing I like that I'm still gonna get again, but it's not gonna be the same. Like I'm not gonna get bulletproof brand MCT oil. I'll get just regular MCT oil. Like I'm not gonna pay extra for the special brand or whatever. And so yeah, that's been a part of the grieving process as well. And it's just like a thing of acceptance and like I'm okay with it, but it's still a thing to go through.
Is that a conversation that you and Margaret have had?
Yeah, I bet. Yeah,
to change to her lifestyle as well.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't need these fancy things, and I'm like, yeah, you don't need them, but I'm not trying to defend or go back. I'm not advocating for more apple picking, but I am saying like, yes, but like when everything is the same cost,
then yeah, go for the good stuff.
Then yeah, that skirt steak is better than the New York strip. Like, or let's get oysters. Like, why not? It's better than not getting them, because we wouldn't. Yeah. Or let's get the heirloom organic chicken instead of the, just the regular chicken, the conventional chicken. Like I'm thinking of the baby that we want to make. I'm thinking of our bodies that we want to remake, and getting the absolute best ingredients to make our bodies is exciting to me. And it's not scary, but it's like, it's not disappointing either. But yeah, it's just something else to have the extra factor of needing to look at the price tag and keep a budget. And I think that I might, like, I've been doing 2 meals a day now since you left, and I might be shifting down to maybe 1 meal a day just for the cost savings of it, in addition to the other things that I want to use it for. You look like you have a thinking face on.
I have lots of competing thoughts.
Would love to hear them.
How can I help?
Just by list. I mean, you already did. I've been wanting to share this with you for a bit, and I appreciate you listening. I'm not good at asking for. I'm not good at even responding with what somebody can help me with. But
yeah.
I mean, helping me make God mode take off so that I have an extra source of income. That would be super helpful.
Yep. I'm keen to figure out how we do that. I don't think it's by building an app, just to double down on last week's episode. But yeah.
I agree. Okay. I understand your reasoning completely, and I agree with it. And I still am so excited for the app.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
It kind of actually, God mode kind of shifted for me in my head a little bit when I'm like, actually, no, I understand what the app would be. Like, because early on I was like, I could make a video thing, I could make a website, I could make an app. Like, what do these things all look like? I can make a book, whatever. But now it finally, and just like recently, it clicked for me what the book would look like. I also don't think I should start with the book, but I understand your reasoning. I also should not start with the app. Both of those are down the roads things.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm full of shit, but my head says it's a pyramid. and you've got to fill the base. You've got to fill the base wide.
Yeah.
That base, the pyramid is the people who know you. The pyramid is filled with people who know you. The tip is the people who are going to pay you the most amount of money, and then the base is the people who are going to pay you nothing. You need the base in order to support the people at the top. In order for anyone to know about you and what God Mode is doing, you need to build that base far and wide. And if I can help you do that, then I am 100% here for that.
Amazing. Thank you.
How do you feel?
A little bit shaky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I sense that.
Yeah. I feel loved and accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Safe, but also exposed and open and vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's interesting feeling safe and vulnerable at the same time.
It sounds wanky as fuck, but like safety to be vulnerable, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you exposed yourself, you flayed yourself open. It's one thing to tell someone something deeply held about yourself. It's quite another to expose something that. Well, I'm projecting actually. Secrecy has very much been a part of this, and I think you mentioned the word earlier, but I guess for you, shame not so much, but secrecy very much.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a really great distinction, actually. That's 100% it. Because there wasn't much shame about it, but it was like
you have to keep it secret.
This just has to stay a secret. Yeah. And then also the completely humdrum everyday factor of secrets being in my family.
Yeah.
It was second nature.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say a thing, and again, this is not a. It might sound like judgment, but I don't mean it to. This is massive. I think it's very, very, very big, and I think that means all the more applause to you and to Margaret. I think because I think it is big, and so I think it's wonderful that you felt safe enough to have that conversation with her, and that she's, yes, there's the shock, but also that she's, she's on board. Is there?
Yeah.
And this might be way off base, and it occurred to me earlier. I was curious. Is there any sense to which you felt like you have to be a provider?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with, I was unemployed there for a long time. And like, I was getting unemployment, but like, I was kind of like just keeping that for the mortgage payment. And when I wasn't unemployed, like some other big expenses were, the wedding was coming up, and then the fucking arbitration, like all these things kept happening that we kept just staying financially just afloat. And we haven't been thriving in the way that it feels like we should, with us both working, me having a really well-paying job.
I feel that as well. That sense of like seeming to work really hard, seeming to be productive, but not seeming to make headway.
Yeah. And we've got no savings. We've got no safety net. And so, it's kind of felt like, I still need to provide. If I'm going to provide in this covert way, then I might as well get the nicest shit I can. And so then we built up this standard of living. And now it's like, oh, that standard of living is based on apple picking. That's based on something that is not sustainable.
Yeah.
How do you feel, man?
All sorts.
I just shared a lot.
Yeah.
And that's now a burden on you.
I don't feel burdened. It's a very alien thing for me. And The fucking cojones on this lad to come to this space and bring that. You must have had when was this conversation? When did you have the conversation with Margaret?
That was on a week ago today. So yeah, okay. I think it was right after we recorded, I believe, last week.
You must have had a tumultuous week.
I mean, yeah, it's been heavy. I've been unable to really articulate how and why it's felt so hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's taken a week to get the clarity to be able to deliver this, because when talking about it, it's like, I mean, people like, and especially like I've brought up many times, like I feel like an addict. I have addictive tendencies, and I have done self-sabotaging behaviors to acquire and use substances and behaviors that I know are harmful to me, and yet I feel compelled and unable to stop myself from doing them anyway. And that is like the definition of addiction.
I have a huge chocolate bar in my kitchen that I just want. Like, yeah, I want to eat it so bad. It's huge. It's one of those Tony's chocolate only. Like, it's fucking huge. It's deleterious to my health. I'm gonna hope that I don't hate myself. I'm gonna hope that I enjoy it, but I'm gonna fucking eat it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, enjoy it. Don't hate yourself. I did have one other little thing.
Okay.
That's in a much better sort of vein. And you and I have already briefly talked about this on chat. But I've been given the go-ahead to publish my remix of Get Better by Frank Turner.
Yes.
By their record label. Yes. And that put me in a funny position where I was like, okay, well, do I just post the song as is? Or do I make an extended version of it? And then, I sent that message to you and Cameron, and Cameron replied with like, well, make a radio edit. I was like, shit, do I have time for any of this?
Fuck you.
But like, oh man, no, actually, no, that sounds legit correct. Like that. Yeah, it'd be easy to chop off and kind of truncate this to be just kind of punchy, and just for the in and out version of it, and then keeping the original edit because it's beautiful. And then I've been ruminating on fun ideas of how to make the extended version, and yeah, so I think I'm going to make a 3P, as you call it, and put that out on CD Baby coming up soon. I'm currently in the middle of a Snowmageddon here in Portland.
Oh wow!
So it's only like 2.5 inches of snow. It's not like a lot, but like the whole city shuts down at the. There's white. Oh my god! I've never seen that color. So since I'm stuck home, and it's it might be a beautiful opportunity to.
Yeah, use that time, man.
Yeah, also in my head, in my brain is like, well, I need to work on God Mode stuff. I need to work on the Rockstar website. I need to find more Rockstar jobs somehow. I need to do, I need to clean up around the house. I need to do all these things. And I have like, how do I prioritize a remix that is like, it's going to get like 15 streams, like it's not going to be a moneymaker. And it's also, it's enjoyable, but it's not like, completely filling, it doesn't like, it's not super rejuvenating like a sauna would be for me, like that, or a yoga session that I should probably do. And I enjoy it and I'm excited for the outcome, but the process is still difficult. It's trying, it's exhausting because I'll be at it for hours because I want to make it as perfect as I can make it.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's like, how do I prioritize that when I know I need to be doing other things?
My advice, such as it is,
hit me,
would be to go all in, get it out, and get it sort of out of the flush it out.
Flush it.
Because
rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. Well, not so much rip the Band-Aid off, but more I would like to invite you, and this maybe is where, I don't know, perhaps it's where I can be of use to you on a regular basis. You are now at a really interesting position potentially, because you have divulged this thing. There's a perhaps a sloughing off, which is a horrible image, but there you go. Shedding of sort of an old way of being and the need to bring about a new way of being.
Yeah.
And that gives you the opportunity then to start making some assessments about what is the life that you want to lead? What is what do you want to be? What are the different roles you want to play to yourself, to Margaret, to your family, to your future kid? What do you want to be known for? What's the impact you want to have in the world? What are those various things? And start building some priorities around that.
Yeah.
And start scheduling your time in accordance with those priorities. Figure out what those are, and then start making decisions. Like you and I have discussed before, me working with you is extraneous to that, but like working on an app is, I am looking at my free time or my just time in general and trying to figure out, is this in service of the person?
My core principles. Yeah.
Now
my end goals,
I can very easily say that working with you and helping with this stuff is in service of my need to be, or my desire, whatever, to be a good friend, and also to be an enabler in a good way, to be someone who helps things begin rather than something else. I get excited when people start things, and it's within me to want to help facilitate that.
I feel like when you get excited that people start things, like I feel like me entertaining the idea of God mode has been like just glorious for you for like a year now, because like it's only been me starting.
Me blue balls,
I've
mate.
never actually.
You've given me absolute blue balls. I'm edging.
This is what edging is.
Yeah.
And as always, correct me if I'm wrong.
Go Hawks.
Are you aware of why the writers have that specific those crazy demands that are like ultra specific and colored and pointless?
I am. It was also recently covered on, I think, Reconcilable Differences, the podcast, but I am also aware of it. I wasn't aware of it to the extent that they were talking about on the podcast, but I am aware of it. Please tell the listener.
Oh yeah, just briefly, it's a safety concern. It's to make sure that the people at the venue are reading carefully, going through everything.
Reading the contract.
Yeah. So if you're noticing that they only want red M&Ms, you're also going to notice that they want this specific type of cabling for the structures that are overhead and not going to fall on them. It's like a life safety thing.
Yeah, because it was one specific rock band, and I think it was they said no blue M&Ms.
Right.
And I can't remember which band it was, but it might have been AC/DC,
something like that.
Yeah, so one of those bands. And yeah, exactly. Like I knew it to be that they wanted to make sure that the rider was read correctly, and it was only recently that I understood it to be. Because yes, they've got to make sure that the venue isn't just going like, yeah, rock band, yeah, we get it, lights here and smoke machine and do this stuff. That they actually say, no, we want these particular things because it is a safety concern. And I think
because sometimes they have like people or equipment or whatever that's up on strings that are pulling stuff up and down for the show, and they want to make sure that everything is. Cabling is rated not
Can
just
this
for
ceiling take the weight?
Yeah, not just for what the lights it typically has, but for an extra person to be on there as well, or guitar flying around or something.
and now we think about it as a simply as a demonstration of Hollywood excess.
Yeah. Which is kind of, I mean, I kind of like that. Like, I think that's actually kind of cute. It's like, yeah, you lay people, you just think that we're all high and mighty when actually there's a reason behind this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I mean, at least I love learning about that when something that is typically thought of as extra is actually legit.